talk a little bit about the importance of the throat chakra. In last video we talked about, I spoke about coming from a place of generations dealing with throat chakra issues, shedding little white lies and things like this. Once you start to get into the habit of light conversation and just kind of saying what people want to hear or little things like that, it's a habit you take on inversely also upon yourself, blocking off things you don't want to think about, telling yourself it's not a big deal, or just avoidance, really, issues. But it all deals with the throat chakra and your true voice. So coming from a place of throat chakra, going towards the heart center, we want to be able to open up this pathway as best we can to allow the energy. What we really want to be are open channels, channeling, mediums, channel. We are antennas. Chakras are energy vortexes, and the emotions that relate to them are a way of transmitting information. The subconscious transmissions coming from our body to us. We learn in yoga in the beginning to read people's bodies, their alignment. There's different characteristics you can see in a person's body structure. I tend to watch people's hands when they speak. I like to look at people's hands and the agility of them, the movement. I don't know how to explain it really, but there's a lot of ways you can communicate things. I also like to read people's tattoos, depending on where they put them on their body, what kind of symbolism and colors they're using, along with the chakra system. Give you a little reading of sorts. These are just fun things to do, but to see what your subconscious is telling you. And we also spoke about networks, kind of giving you the idea of how these points and lines of transmission form for transmitting energy and taking on this wave-like pattern. So with the wave, we get into currents of energy, how sensitive you are to the subtler energies, and how your body reacts to them. God is electricity, is energy. There's this invisible web of energy. You kind of look at weather patterns. It's that sort of influence. Think of yourself like if anybody drives standards, you get to the point where, how do you know when you need to shift? You sense that feeling and you react to it physically. It's kind of, why do we do what we do? Why is our attention brought into certain areas? So talking about the throat chakra, and coming from a place where it's maybe just been a little repressed in generations past. So think about when you have a pregnant woman, you really want her to be relaxed and as calm as possible, because if the mother's body is very tight and stressed and anxious, the child is likely to be born in the same type state. This is how her muscle pattern forms. So because of trauma in past generations that have affected motherhood, this is just an issue that's come about. That's what we're dealing with in our part of the cycle. So to open up the throat chakra, one of the things I've learned doing my cam work, before, for me, I mainly used vocal techniques or singing, really, to keep this area in check. Lots of neck stretches. I realized with doing my cam work how good blowjobs are for throat chakra, opening up your throat even for singing. Makes my airway is so much stronger and broader. And it just relaxes so much tension in the face. Talk about wrinkles and all this stuff. It really gives you a glow. Your lips, puff out. It's just a good release. And if anyone has ever deep-throated, there's just an area down to where it just stretches. We've got this really tight, almost like a second vagina looking area, so it really relaxing that muscle is just it just affects, because it's such a network here. It's just has such a broader effect on it. And the more if you're uncomfortable giving blowjobs, one reason could be a mental block. And when I was married, I lost my lust for penis. I enjoy giving blowjobs. I don't do it just to please a man, and I hope a lot more women out there are able to be at the point of enjoying themselves to do it, and it not be this common joke that they only get it on their birthday, because it's really not about the guy. But I got to a point in my marriage where when you lose yourself, you lose that respect, and it's not a fun job to do. So luckily enough, found my love of penis again. Lord, the things I do. So yeah, there are tons of glands in this area that get stimulated, and like any other thing, the more you do it, the more pleasure. There's just a release of hormones. For me, I find it's not a describable pleasure. It's not like I'll stop there. It's good for you. So with men, what do? Well, they have Adam's apples. And the Adam's apple right around the thyroid gland, it makes their neck already wide. You want to suck on a dick? Good for you. Get you some. I enjoy it. But I mean, everybody's different, so who knows what somebody else needs. Our bodies have evolved and morphed over so long. There's so many different exceptions. I hope I'm trying to speak to my broadest audience here. We're also a generation of a lot of oral fixation. We're a foodie generation. I know before my body's kind of changed, where I really only eat for fuel now, and I kind of only eat chicken and something sweet every once in a while. But I have a very strong oral fixation. So yeah, signs of the times. But also speaking on men and cunnilingus, and what I've noticed in my study in cams, you really get to see men in herds in such large quantities of time, and notice the characteristics that they have alike. And it's really like seeing some wild animals, and you learn their feeding times and their little manipulations, just kind of, rats in a cage. So there's different development stages, even beyond puberty. Totally. The older generation is a little bit different when it comes to eating a woman out. I don't get a lot of older gentlemen in my room, but the ones I have spoken to tend to be very old-fashioned. Talk about eating pussy like it's a duty. Like, I love my wife so much, I'll even do this disgusting thing for her. So it is a show of affection, but coming in a different way. There's the mama's boys who've been raised by single mothers or just coddled a little too much, who, when it comes to sex, I've never had an issue with some of my lovers and menstruating, and that's when women become most horny, I think. It's interesting how many men have issues with it, because you think men don't mind getting messy. Boys like mud and gore and all these things that shouldn't bother them. But there's the mama's boys and these particular metro types that are very particular, a little too prissy for my taste. Like, that's my job. And if I'm not scared, you shouldn't be. But who find, I guess, eating a woman out, it's I don't know, they think it's messy, kind of like that. Like, to them, it's like, ew, ew, ew. So yeah, that's become an epidemic in a way. I won't say all men, but a large quantity. Pretty sad. But I know there's issue with the women too, turning sex into a control type thing, and it really should be something that's enjoyed. So when it comes to men and performing the act and how it benefits them physically, any function in this area to stimulate the glands is really using your tongue, it's all on your palate, your cheeks, all of these areas to be stimulated. So it helps with articulation. It's just a more subtle energy. So in yoga, we tend to work on the gross anatomy. I like to focus on the very minute parts like hands or eyes, mouth, sexual organs, I suppose. The real subtle energies where the juices are once you get rid of these larger congestions. And one thing I like to show with the hands is, they're all stressed right now. They're closely related to the heart and lung area, your heart chakra. So one of the reasons I like to read hands is they're just good indicators for me. I've been watching them for so long. It's just kind of an intuitive thing. I'm looking at mine now, like, oh god, this girl's got issues. Massage. Breathing with your hands clenched. You know, you think about we're working, we're typing all the time, so we get into these statue-like poses. So try breathing like this, and try breathing with your arms, you know, your fingers stretched out. So a lot of times in yoga I like to keep my prayer hands and motion work my hands while I'm doing it. So what we're looking to do by performing these oral exercises, aside from just the fun of it, if you connect with someone in that way, is to relax the area to help open our channels. And just overall health, getting constrictions out so you can loosen up and untangle these webs that get a little bit too funky. So any type of exercise where we're constricting, like blowjobs, constricting the area, the release is going to be more impactful. I'm not saying hurt yourself, but gagging and all of these reflexes are very normal to get phlegm out, clear out your sinuses. I do a neti pot every morning. Keeps my lungs pretty clear, but there's nothing like a blowjob to clean out your sinuses and your tear ducts. It's just the whole system, glandular system, and you're dealing with sexual glands. This is all very natural. It's been turned into this perverted act and to commercialize it and repress people and stop our bodies from functioning in an appropriate and efficient manner. So we just need to get over these misconceptions of what sex is and what it means. And it's not about just going out and fucking all the time, but understanding that these we're meant to be sexual every day. This is our exercise. This is what yoga leads us to, getting back into this pattern of living naturally. It's a process, but and it's not about going out and performing it with just finding anybody and doing this, but knowing that your body, this is something that needs to change. And so other ideas in perceptions and beliefs you may have about relationships need to change in order to make this a possibility for you in the best way. So that goal has other steps in between, but you know, feel free to experiment. Please keep yourself in a comfortable space and question what you need to. Oh man, I'm just gonna put it all out there. So yeah, I have more to speak on this subject, and I'll probably go over anal sex next time, the benefits and the physiological reasons. It can be appropriate for some people, so hopefully I enlightened you on some points. I'm getting a little bit smoother in my presentation. This is just I just do. Thanks for putting up with all this. Blah blah blah. Bye.